1:47 a.m. Western Pacific, open ocean. The carrier never heard them coming. Above the surface, the night was calm. Flat seas, low winds, and a dark sky broken only by distant stars. The U.S. aircraft carrier, escorted by destroyers and cruisers, cut steadily through international waters. To the naked eye, nothing was wrong. Below the surface, everything was. 1:50 a.m. First subsurface irregularity. Inside the carrier strike group's outer ring, a destroyer's sonar operator paused mid-sweep. "Sir, I've got a faint contact. Extremely quiet. The acoustic return barely registered. Just a whisper against background noise. Not commercial. Not marine life. Military." 1:52 a.m. Second contact appears. Before the first contact could be fully classified, another appeared on a separate bearing, then a third. Different depths, different speeds, identical silence. The pattern was unmistakable. 1:54 a.m. Silent alarm across the fleet. No general quarters, no sirens. But the carrier group shifted posture. Destroyers widened their sonar arcs. Helicopter crews were quietly alerted. Anti-submarine warfare systems moved from passive to alert ready. This was no drill. 1:56 a.m. Intelligence correlation. Aboard the carrier's Combat Information Center, analysts overlaid sonar data with intelligence reports. The conclusion formed rapidly and chilled the room. One contact matched Chinese submarine acoustic profiles. Another aligned closely with a Russian attack submarine signature. Two adversaries, operating together. 1:58 a.m. A dangerous first. Joint patrols were one thing, joint exercises were expected, but this was a coordinated underwater positioning maneuver against a U.S. carrier, something that had never been attempted openly before. 2 a.m., the carrier group tightens. The fleet commander issued a quiet order: defensive formation, subsurface priority. Destroyers adjusted position, forming overlapping sonar coverage. The carrier slowed slightly, minimizing noise and improving detection. The ocean around the group became a chessboard. 2 o'clock at 3 a.m., submarines close distance. The underwater contacts did not retreat, they adjusted. One descended deeper, slipping beneath thermal layers. Another rose slowly, using the carrier's own noise to mask movement. They weren't scouting, they were hunting. 2:05 a.m. Weapons state change detected. Sonar operators noticed a subtle but terrifying change. One contact altered depth sharply. Its acoustic signature shifted. Weapon doors opening. Every experienced operator knew the sound. 2:06 a.m. Fleet goes to Condition 1. The order echoed across encrypted channels. Condition 1. All ships. The most serious readiness level short of active combat. Torpedo defenses primed. Decoys armed. V-close-in systems powered up. The carrier strike group was now fully awake. 2:08 a.m. Helicopters launch. From the carrier deck, anti-submarine helicopters lifted into the night, rotors slicing the darkness. Sonar buoys were prepared for rapid deployment. Above the waves, aircraft hunted shadows below. 2:10 a.m. Coordinated underwater movement. The most alarming discovery came seconds later. The Chinese and Russian submarines adjusted simultaneously. Perfect timing, perfect spacing. This was not coincidence. This was coordination. 2:12 a.m. The trap takes shape. Analysts realized the danger. One submarine positioned ahead of the carrier's projected path. Another lingered off the flank. If torpedoes were launched from both angles, defensive options would be limited. 2:14 a.m. The fleet commander's dilemma. Engaging too early could provoke escalation. Waiting too long could be fatal. Submarine warfare offered no second chances. The admiral weighed seconds like years. 2:16 a.m. Sudden acceleration below. One submarine surged forward. Fast. Too fast for passive tracking alone. The acoustic signature flared briefly, then disappeared again. It had fired something, or was about to. 2:17 a.m. Torpedo warning. A destroyer's CIC erupted. Torpedo in the water, bearing 310. The calm night shattered instantly. 2:18 a.m. Countermeasures deployed. The fleet reacted as one. Decoys launched, flooding the water with false targets. Ships executed sharp turns, churning the sea white. Helicopters dropped sonar buoys in rapid succession. The ocean became chaos. 2:20 a.m. Second launch detected. Another torpedo. Different bearing, different depth. Two attackers. Two nations. One target. 2:21 a.m. The carrier under threat. For the first time, the carrier itself detected the danger. Hull-mounted sensors screamed warnings. Defensive systems calculated impact windows. Seconds separated safety from catastrophe. 2:22 a.m. Near miss. One torpedo detonated against a decoy, erupting in a violent underwater explosion that rocked nearby ships. The carrier shuddered as shockwaves rippled through the sea. It was close, too close. 2:24 a.m. A grim realization. This was not a test, not harassment, not signaling. This was an attack, and it was coordinated by two of America's most capable naval adversaries. 2:26 a.m. New sonar contact appears. As if the situation weren't dire enough, sonar operators detected movement deeper than before. Another submarine, or repositioning for a second strike? No one knew yet. 2:28 a.m. The fleet's combat systems recalculated. Weapons solutions formed. Engagement authority hovered one command away. The ocean was silent again, but not calm, because everyone understood the truth. If the next torpedo was real and not deceived, the carrier would have seconds to survive. Chinese and Russian submarines had launched a coordinated underwater attack on a U.S. carrier. The first torpedoes missed, but the trap was still closing, and the next move would decide whether the sea remained silent or turned into a battlefield. 2:29 a.m. Western Pacific. Silence after the shock. For a brief moment after the underwater explosion, the ocean went eerily quiet. No new sonar spikes, no fresh detonations, just the deep, unsettling hum of machinery and the steady churn of propellers. But silence in submarine warfare was never comfort. It was a warning. 2:30 a.m. Sonar picture rebuild. Across the carrier strike group, sonar operators worked furiously to reconstruct the underwater picture. Decoy noise faded. Thermal layers stabilized. Contacts reappeared, faint but undeniable. Two hostile submarines were still out there, and they were repositioning. 2:32 a.m. The carrier's vulnerability window. Analysts aboard the carrier understood the danger. The first attack had forced defensive maneuvers, temporarily disrupting the fleet's carefully layered protection. That disruption, however brief, created a vulnerability window. If the attackers timed a second salvo correctly, it could overwhelm even the best defenses. The clock was ticking again. 2:34 a.m. Helicopters re-engage. Above the surface, anti-submarine helicopters circled tightly, dropping fresh sonar buoys in precise patterns. Each splash echoed across the dark sea. Data flowed in real time. Depth, speed, bearing. One hostile submarine had gone deeper. The other had slowed dramatically. Different tactics, same goal. 2:36 a.m. A third player emerges. Then came the unexpected. A new sonar contact flickered briefly at extreme range. Deep, fast, and deliberate. Not one of the original attackers. A U.S. attack submarine, already operating quietly beneath the carrier group, had moved into position. It had been there all along, waiting. 2:38 a.m. Underwater chess begins. The U.S. submarine adjusted depth by mere meters, aligning itself with the deeper of the two hostile contacts. Its movements were measured, its noise discipline absolute. This was not pursuit, this was interception. 2:40 a.m. The second salvo. Without warning, sonar alarms flared again. Another torpedo launch, then another. Two weapons fired almost simultaneously from different bearings. The coordinated attack was back. 2:41 a.m. Fleet reaction at full speed. Destroyers accelerated hard, breaking formation to draw fire away from the carrier. Decoys flooded the water once more, creating a forest of false signatures. Helicopters adjusted immediately, focusing on the shallow attacker first. Every ship moved with purpose. Every second mattered. 2:43 a.m. Close call. One torpedo cut through decoy fields. Its guidance system stubbornly locked. It passed beneath the destroyer by a terrifyingly small margin before detonating prematurely. Its seeker confused by layered countermeasures. The shockwave slammed into hull plating. Damage, but survivable. The carrier was still untouched. 2:45 a.m. The U.S. submarine strikes. Below the chaos, the U.S. attack submarine finally had its opening. It had tracked the deeper hostile submarine for minutes, waiting for the exact moment when maneuverability dropped and noise spiked. The launch was silent. One torpedo, then nothing. 2:47 a.m. Underwater detonation. The explosion rolled through the deep like thunder. Sonar screens flared white. Then, one hostile contact vanished entirely. Gone. 2:49 a.m. Russian or Chinese? For a moment, no one knew which submarine had been hit. Then intelligence confirmed it. The deeper contact, matching Russian acoustic signatures, was no longer transmitting noise. It was out of the fight. Permanently. 2:51 a.m. Pressure shifts. The balance changed instantly. The remaining submarine, Chinese, altered course sharply, increasing speed and changing depth in rapid succession. It knew it was now alone and exposed. 2:53 a.m. Aggressive pursuit. Helicopters concentrated sonar coverage on the remaining contact. A destroyer closed distance, deploying active sonar pulses despite the risk of revealing its own position. This was no longer just defense. This was containment. 2:55 a.m. Last gamble below. The Chinese submarine made a bold move. It surged toward the carrier group, using speed and noise to force confusion, hoping to slip through the defensive net before another strike could land. It was desperate and dangerous. 2:57 a.m. The carrier's countermove. The fleet commander ordered a calculated maneuver. The carrier altered course sharply, supported by escorts repositioning to block approach paths. At the same time, decoys were deployed ahead of the carrier, creating a moving wall of false targets. The ocean filled with ghosts. 2:59 a.m. Final intercept. The U.S. attack submarine re-engaged. This time, it didn't wait. Another torpedo left the tube, racing through the dark toward the last hostile contact. The Chinese submarine attempted evasive maneuvers, dropping countermeasures, changing depth, turning hard. It wasn't enough. 03:01 a.m. The ocean erupts. The explosion was violent, stronger than before. Sonar screens cleared slowly. Then, one by one, operators confirmed it. No movement, no propulsion noise, no counter signals. The second attacking submarine was gone. 03:03 a.m. The sea falls quiet. For the first time since the attack began, the underwater battle space emptied. No hostile contacts remained within range. No new launches detected. The coordinated assault had collapsed. 03:05 a.m. Fleet holds position. The carrier strike group did not relax. Not yet. Sensors remained active. Weapons stayed armed. Helicopters continued to patrol because even victory underwater demanded caution. 3:12 a.m. Dawn approaches. As the horizon began to lighten, damage assessments rolled in. Minor hull damage on one escort. No critical systems lost, no casualties aboard the carrier. Against the odds, the fleet had survived intact. Later that morning, strategic shockwaves. The consequences rippled far beyond the Pacific. Two submarines, one Chinese, one Russian, had attacked a U.S. carrier together, and neither had returned. Governments reacted quietly, but urgently. Exercises were paused. Naval patrols intensified. Communication channels burned hot. This incident would not be forgotten. Military analysis. Experts would later agree on one point. This was not meant to sink the carrier outright. It was meant to test the limits of coordinated undersea warfare, to see how much pressure could be applied, how fast defenses could respond. The test failed tactically, but the lesson was learned by everyone. The Chinese and Russian submarines had attacked together. They had come closer than anyone in decades, but the carrier lived, and with that survival came a stark message of its own. Under the sea, silence is power, and tonight, silence belonged to the survivors. Torpedoes were fired, submarines were lost, the carrier endured, but the ocean would remember the night when two great powers tested America's most powerful fleet and learned just how unforgiving the deep could be.